rebuilding confidence, and harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zimet.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zimet Show, where being the best you has just gotten easier. My guest today is Colleen Rosenblum, and she's calling in from Nashville, Tennessee. Woo!
Hello, Beverly. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, welcome to the show. Are you excited?
I am. Thanks.
Good.
Thanks for the
Me
conversation.
Too. Oh, it's always fun on this show. We laugh a lot. We have a good time. We have a really good time. No need to get serious because life is too short for that, right?
Exactly.
I
agree.
Oh, man, I tell you, look at some of the stuff that's going on here in 2020, and hey, you just got to laugh or you go crazy, right?
That's so true. I just consider it a skip year. We're just skipping 2020. Back to 2021.
There you go. I'll tell you, it's, my gosh, it's already what? September. It's like,
I know.
It is getting skipped, it seems like. Yeah? Wow.
Yeah, it's just the summer flew by. I don't know how it's Labor Day weekend already.
I know. I totally spaced it. I was doing other things. Okay, we're going to do this. And I was talking with my business partner, right? And so, okay, we'll do this on Monday and all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden yesterday, it's like, oh, it's Labor Day weekend. I don't think anybody's going to show up. Are we crazy? Okay, whatever.
Well, hopefully they will.
Yeah, well, it's Monday, but... to me, every day here, especially this day, this year, this like every day is the same day. Just like
it does. You forget what day it is. Like Friday, Monday.
I know. It was Tuesday, and I thought it was Saturday. I'm not kidding you. If somebody said, "Hey, what's today?" I said Saturday. I would have. I tell you, it was freaking crazy, and I don't know. Maybe something exciting is going to happen tomorrow.
You never know. You never know. It is Saturday. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Tomorrow, so
yeah. Oh, I just got a call from my daughter-in-law. They're going to have a barbecue. So that'll be fun. So, yeah.
Just to be able to get out a little bit, and enjoy the last of the weather where you are, because it will be getting cold soon.
Yeah. They're saying by Tuesday it's supposed to be like really cold. It's like...
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, so...
We're a little more mild here in Nashville. We don't get extremes for very long of any
exactly. It's interesting. God, this was years ago. This was actually back in the 80s. I went to Nashville for a big automotive show because I was in that industry back then, right? And it was November. And the colors were just really changing and getting into the beauty of it. Oh, it was breathtaking, And it was so strange because, here in Colorado we had snow already.
They say in Nashville, if you don't like the weather, just wait 15 minutes, it'll change, because our weather just constantly changes here. It's raining 1 minute and sunny the next. So
yeah,
just kind of roll with it.
They say that everywhere. Trust me, I've been everywhere. And they say, if you don't like the weather, just hang on 5 minutes, it'll change. It's like, I think that's just something people say. I do. I had come to that conclusion, right?
Maybe you're right.
So, Colleen, what do you do in Nashville, Tennessee? Are you one of them singers?
Oh, yeah, I wish. No. You would run if I started singing right now.
Oh, well, then let's don't do that, because we're supposed to have fun on this show,
Yeah, I think I might scare off your audience there.
Oh, gosh, let's don't do that.
Actually, I am co-host of a podcast, and the podcast is called Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. And as you can tell from the title, we talk to midlife women and beyond. So anyone over the age of 40 up to whatever age you want to be. We kind of cover all the bases for women, everything from your mindset to business to menopause to careers to family. You know, we're so multidimensional women that we didn't want to cover just one topic. So we kind of added the N cool topics after so we could cover all the bases. And we're having a blast. We've been doing it about a year.
That sounds amazing. Hot flashes and cool topics. I love that. I love that. You'll have to give me the link to that. Share it with the audience here, because you know my audience is kind of, in that direction.
Cover the base. Right. Well, and I always say, if they're not, then tell their mother, because her mom will want to listen to it. So,
just get prepared, because and
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. We have a lot of listeners who have their daughters, and even some of their husbands, because the husbands don't understand why maybe their wives are getting a little psychotic. They're like, "Where did my wife go?" And so they listen, they go, "Oh, okay, you're hormonally imbalanced right now, so you don't want to kill me for real." But yeah, you can find us on any of the podcast platforms. We're on Apple and iTunes and Stitcher and iHeartRadio and all those fun things. And our website is hotflashescooltopics.com, and we have a ton of stuff on there. We do happy hours, we do live streams, we talk about self-care. Anything that could benefit and make your life better,
cooler, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Who said we have to live in the past? I mean, we're living another 30 plus years. How do you want to live those years? You can, you can't travel right now, but you can hopefully travel by 2021. You could travel, you can start a new career. You can make it whatever you want it to be, because you've earned that freedom. And that's what we like to talk about.
Oh, that's great, because that's kind of what this show is all about too. It's like really being that expression of you. So how do you become that best you all the time? And it's doing something different every single day, right? I mean, if you stay in the same old grind, oh my gosh, it's like, really, what are you doing on the planet? Why don't you just bury yourself, right?
Exactly. And we kind of have that freedom to pick what we want to do now. Like, we don't have to worry about getting the kids to school and making sure they're okay. And then you're running to this thing and you're doing that thing and you're in the, your husband's doing, you kind of get to be selfish after 40 a little bit. It's not it's such a taboo word, but it's not a bad word anymore. You can put yourself first. So
yeah. And we as women always have more of a tendency to always put ourselves into the back, burner, so to speak. I know, I had mentioned, in the 80s I was in the automotive industry, but it kind of got me prepared for things that I started doing, later in life when, it was in a man's world, right? Because there weren't women in that industry, I'll guarantee you. It was not a woman's industry. But again, it's that pioneer thing, and there was a lot of counseling that happened. I saved a lot of marriages, right? Seriously. The guys had come to me and they said, "Beverly, you're a woman." I said, "Oh, well, I'm glad you know it. It's okay."
Last time I checked, yes.
What's the problem? I had so much fun. I mean, there was a lot of teasing, a lot of flirting, just a lot of fun, really fun. That was some of the best years of my life. But they would come to me, like, "I don't know what the hell's going on. My wife's doing this and she's saying this," and it's like crazy, and it's like, well, this is what she's trying to tell you she wants. And they're like, deer in the headlight. I mean, deer in the headlight, right? And they're like, "You're kidding, right?" And I said, "No, I'm serious." "Okay." I said, "Is what you're doing working?" "No." "Then what do you got to lose? Try it."
Exactly.
Try it. Tell you what, let's make a deal. So next week, you give it a try. Next week when I come back, because I was there every week, I told him, I said, "If it doesn't work, you can tell me I told you so. But if it works, I get to say I told you so." "All right, that's a deal." Well, guess who got to say I told you so? All right. And they were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it was that simple," right? And life really is that way. When you really begin to understand the workings of the brain, the female brain does not work the same as a male brain. It just doesn't, And in the 90s, I had left Denver and moved to Vegas. I did start doing the automotive down there, just in the detail aspect. But I started really getting into what my passion was and into my love, which was in that energy work and energy healing and that type of stuff. And I've I had like 9 years of practice, not even really knowing that that's what it was. It was kind of interesting how spirit kind of just throws you together, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you talk about that age, at 45. That's my mindset. That's where I'm at. I am 45. I've been 45 for a long time, okay? Because to me, that was my aha lifetime. That's when I had the world by the tail, so to speak. I ventured off on my own, started doing my own thing. I bought an RV. I hit the road, and I have never looked back, and I still hit the road until 2020. It's kind of slowed me down a little bit, but I've got some new business things that are going, so it's like, okay, I can do this. This is a temporary fix, right? And so I've been here now, I think 3 months, maybe 4 months. I don't know. But I've been here for a while. And so we'll see what happens if I spend the rest of the year here or if I find a new adventure. I don't know yet. But, so when you start doing that, and it's interesting that you're talking about hot flashes, because that was one of the specialties that I kind of started by accident getting into, because I'm a homeopath. And, I have a machine called a body scan, and I worked with the lymphatic machines and all kinds of holistic medicine. Well, I'm a firm believer in, with the mindset, you mentioned mindset, women go through different levels of their life, different journeys, shall we say. And again, it's your mindset and your belief in how your body begins to respond differently, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm up in Wisconsin at a health food store, and we had this big event going on, and oh my gosh, I was totally inundated with clients. And the majority of them were all around hot flashes, right? And so it's like, okay, so I had a protocol, a homeopathic protocol for hot flashes. Oh my gosh, these women were, they were like, bowing down and everything. It's like, because I don't know what that's like, because when I just kept right on going. I never had a hot flash in my life, never had night sweats
you are
or anything.
Lucky. You're in a small percentage.
That was on purpose. That was, you don't have to. That's the whole thing, right? And when people understand, there's actually 2 hormones that are really key in the element to avoid that, or to at least buffer the blow. One is pregnenolone, and the other is progesterone. Mm-hmm. Most people probably never heard of pregnenolone. Pregnenolone is a precursor to every single hormone in the body. Progesterone is the second key hormone for the body. And sometimes the only way you can get pregnenolone is through a tablet form. And so that's the first thing I put every woman that was having any kind of issues hormonally was on pregnenolone. You don't just walk in a store and get it. That's the unfortunate part of it. But if any of your listeners out there, if you know anybody that wants it, let me know. I can get it all day long, okay? But it's really a key element. You start with either, like 1 bottle, some women need 2 depending on what's going on. But it begins to balance that. And then you work with the progesterone, and then of course there's, your DHEA and your NDAA and all these other things. But there are homeopathics that can balance you out versus having to get on synthetic hormones and stuff like that, because your body isn't really geared up for synthetic anything, right?
Right. Yeah, we've spoken to many experts on the kind of the spectrum from natural solutions to HRTs. It's just,
Sure.
We like to cover all of the bases for women. So the knowledge is power.
Oh my gosh, it is.
So we want to educate women on the whole spectrum of options from
that way they can pick and choose what they want.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But if you don't know what you don't know. Right?
Absolutely. And that's what we're saying.
Yeah, that's the key. Because, one thing isn't right for everybody.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And I think when we're younger, we tend to listen to everyone except for our own inner self saying what's right for us.
Now
And
that is a fact,
Right.
and you say younger. I think, I mean, I've seen that it doesn't matter what age bracket we are, we kind of have that tendency to want to just pay attention to somebody else, because if we do what they say and it messes up, we have somebody to do what? To blame.
To blame, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like, well, it's your fault because that's what you said, right?
You told me to.
Yeah, exactly. And that could be another whole show, right? You told me so, right?
Exactly. But it's true. And I think we get older and a little bit wiser and we listen to what works for us.
We hope so, right?
That's the plan.
That's the plan. And again, that wisdom comes with knowledge.
Sure.
But again, too, and I'm sure you find this on your show with the women that you talk with and the conversations that take place, is that all the all the information in the world isn't worth a dime unless you put it into action, right?
Absolutely. And it's different for every woman. So sometimes you have to try, it's trial and error. What works for you, sometimes you have to try a few different things. You can't give up.
And one thing might work for a while, and then your body reaches a plateau, and it's time to go to that next phase, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. We find that as well because, our bodies are changing. It's reverse puberty and everything's
that's
going
a good
crazy.
way to look at it. Reverse puberty. I like that.
One of my experts said reverse puberty with wisdom, and I liked that. That was the description.
That's a great phrase.
And it's true. So, sometimes it's just, change, like you are ever changing, what I mean? You have to kind of go with the flow. And if this works well, then try something else. If that doesn't, just don't give up. Don't give up on yourself and don't get so frustrated that you just throw your hands in the air and say, I can't do this.
Right.
Because you can. You can.
Right. There's always a way out. And hey, with Google around, you can find anything, right?
It's true. Dr. Google is a scary person, okay?
Oh, I'll tell you, sometimes. But again, now you're so inundated with information. Now you got to sort through and figure out what's going to, what are you going to believe? What feels right for you, right?
Absolutely.
And what feels right one day may not feel right the next day. And it's okay to be able to change and to shift. And that's where that wisdom comes in, right?
I agree with you. Yes, absolutely. And listening to your intuition. And some women have to clear that energy to hear the intuition. Right. So they have to work on it. It's not always readily there, So it's a couple of steps in the process.
So how did you come up with that phrase?
Hot Flashes and Cool Topics, the title? Well, I have a co-host, Bridget, and we wanted to cover the demographic, obviously, to be readily apparent. So when someone heard it, they knew who we were, who our audience was going to be.
Right.
But we also wanted to be the umbrella for midlife and beyond, cover all the topics for women. So it kind of just popped in my head, Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. Like that way you're covering all of the really, we have everything from, we talk about fashion, we talk about, HRTs, we'll talk about natural menopause, we'll talk about changing your careers, we'll talk about, we have some our season 2 is starting September 30th, and we have some really great guests coming on to talk about their midlife challenges and aha moments.
Nice.
So there's not anything we won't cover. We're kind of open, and we love when our listeners email us and say, can you cover this topic, or can you do it again I want to talk about this aspect, or because it's multifaceted. So we're always open to communicating, and if we don't have the answer, we will find someone who does.
That's great. And that's one of the fun things about having a show, right? That you just broaden it, and that's kind of where I went with my topic, right? Being that best you can be. So there's always room for improvement, right? And
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, like you said, what works for you one day may not work for you to be the best you the next day.
And you have to be strong enough to say, because sometimes, it's like, whoa, this is gospel. This is my truth, and I ain't changing it for nothing. Then all of a sudden, you wake up one day and you're like, oh man, that's crap. It's like, but I spent years like drilling this into everybody, and now all of a sudden it's like I've come to this realization because again, your database of information broadens, right?
Right.
And so to be able to say, hey, you know what? That really was my belief and my truth. But I have learned so much over the ages, and that's the wisdom. That's the wisdom. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about really covering the database of information to where now you can sort through things, and it's like, wow. I really understand why it was so prevalent for me back then that this was my truth. Because here's all the stats that I had. All of a sudden, these stats have been blown out of the water, and it's like, whoa. I can't profess that anymore, right?
Well, you don't know what you don't know. So once you know it, you know better.
And then what are you going to do about it, right? I say the same thing. You don't know what you don't know, but once you know it, then what are you going to do, right?
Right, exactly. Then you have to process it, and you put it in
and you have
whatever
choices.
compartment.
You have choices, and it's okay to change.
Oh, absolutely.
It's okay. Because that's the part of growth that I think we kind of like harbor, out of fears, like, well, what are people going to think if all of a sudden I'm different and I'm not doing the same thing? It's like, that's the fun part. Be unpredictable.
Absolutely. You never know what you're going to get. And that scares a lot of husbands.
Yeah, that's probably true right there. It's like,
you never know what you're going to get. So
from one day to the next, sometimes from 1 hour to the next. Oh, my gosh, I remember a girlfriend of mine out in Chicago, and she started having hot flashes, and they were so bad. She'd open up the freezer, and she's doing like this,
I've heard that story many times, believe it or not.
I'm like, what are you doing? She said, I can't handle these hot flashes. And I said, and why is this the first time I'm hearing about this? Are you kidding me?
Right, exactly. A lot of women don't talk about it. A lot of women are embarrassed.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Or they just think you have to grin and bear it because that's what their moms did. But your children are watching. Your daughters, I have 2 adult daughters now. And they watch. They know. They're smart. They're, they see it. So if you openly talk about it and you just talk about it being a transitional phase in life, then they're going to be open to talking about it. We like to really break taboo topics. It's just creating a norm in society where you can talk about them. And, you say the word menopause and men cannot run fast enough away from you, and women are like, oh, I'm getting old.
Well, when you that is so true. That's a psychological thing more than anything. And I think a lot of women suppress it too, thinking that if I don't talk about it, it'll just go away.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And again, like you said, it's just what women go through, It's like when puberty hits. And
if you're lucky enough to live to that stage, you're going to go through it. And, we've had people on who have talked about women as young as 12 and 16. I can't call them women, children, going through menopause for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah. I've seen a lot of women in their early 20s and 30s that were going through some severe menopause issues and things. And when you look at what the heck that was all about, again, we go back to stress.
Mm-hmm. Which is really prevalent right now. So.
Oh my gosh, more than ever. And again, it's another topic that really gets suppressed, right? And people say, I'm not stressed. Really?
Are you sure about that?
Really? Then how come this and how come that? And they're like, yeah, but I've always been that way. Well, I guess you're always stressed then, right?
Didn't know it.
Exactly. And because it begins to be such a habitual thing that we don't perceive it as being an issue. Same way with depression. Right. There's so many different levels of depression, just like there's different levels of stress.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean it's not stress. That doesn't mean it's not depression. Right? And so when we really understand what those definitions are, then we can take charge of that and say, Now, what can I do to change it? What can I do to make it better? And with the information and shows like yours and shows like mine, I mean, there's tons of them out there, right? To really be able to listen to how other women move past those challenges. So it's all about learning from other people's mistakes, is what we call them, which I think is the most asinine word on the planet. Right? It's just a piece of journey. It's an experience, right? So when we can learn from other people's experiences of what to or what not to, then we grow into that wisdom, right?
Right, absolutely. It's just life experiences. There's no real, failure isn't really a word. It's just a life experience.
It's an event, right?
Yeah. And you learn from it and you move on.
Right. Yeah. Look at, was it Einstein? No. Who was the one that made the light bulb?
Brain fog.
Edison.
Thomas Edison.
I knew it wasn't he. Okay. So what did he do? 1,000 times. And they said, why didn't you give up? How did you keep on going? And I think we can all learn from that. It wasn't that I failed 1,000 times. I just found 1,000 ways not to do it. And sometimes it's easier to find what's not to do to find what is to do. It's kind of like when I work with my clients, discovering their own identity. I take them into being a self-discovery archaeologist. And what is an archaeologist? An archaeologist kind of starts moving away, what's not there, that is a piece of what it is that they're looking for. So when we start moving the pieces of who you are not away, we then discover really who you are. And it is about your identity, And I think a lot of women, especially when they start going through that change of life, whatever you want to label it, and the different situations when it comes into, doing different businesses and making different lifestyle changes and the whole thing, it's all about me, right? What do I want to be now? This is my freedom. And for me, that 45 was a hot number. My kids were all out of school, right? They had lives of their own, and it's like, woo, it's my time, It's like, and I tell you, I took it, and I've never looking back, right? So,
but you're looking forward, and a lot of women are stuck looking in the past.
Exactly.
So we try to reframe the narrative for a lot of women to say it's okay to have, dueling emotions. You can be sad that chapter has finished and still be happy about something that to look forward to in the future. Right. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And that slowly starts to reframe the narrative for women to say, wait a second, I have another 30, 40 years on this planet. What do I want to do with it? It's my turn. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to be involved in my children's lives, but I get to kind of decide what's right for me.
Right.
And maybe this isn't working. Maybe my career isn't working for me. Maybe this marriage, we have to start dating again and get reconnected. Or, maybe I want to start taking up a hobby. It does not have to be earth shattering.
Right.
It just has to be one small step forward to kind of reframe your brain. Say, okay, I'm not stuck in the past. I still have a future to live.
Right. And your future starts right here in the now, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so, it's an interesting journey. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely, and we love talking about it. We love sharing it, and it's just been an absolute pleasure to have the podcast and everything that's kind of come from it.
Well, you learn so much. I tell you, I have learned so much from my guests, and I've met some of the most fabulous women, and it's like, wow. And actually what I started doing with my business partner, we started a business in February before this whole mess.
Great timing.
Yeah. it was, and we're working in the virtual reality world now. All of a sudden the pandemic hits, right, and this word virtual just got really out of control. Well, what we're doing is not virtual. It's virtual reality, which is completely different. Do you have an understanding what virtual reality is?
Somewhat. I mean, I have children, so
There you go. That's right.
they're big in the virtual reality world, but I just, I know a little bit from them.
Yeah, it really is the wave of the now, and it's going to even be the wave of the future even more. So basically what we've done, the virtual reality little avatar world, it's a way to reconnect. I mean, really connect. Because when you're avatar to avatar, it's like being person to person. So like we're on this Zoom, and you're over there.
Right.
And I'm over here, and you're in Nashville, and I'm in Denver, and your background is in a beautiful little setting, looks like a porch.
It's not real. I wish it was real, but it's not.
And mine's the planet out here.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You're right. And you're somewhere in space.
I'm always in space, I'm a space cadet, okay? So when you look at those perspectives or whatever, in the virtual reality world, you're actually side by side. We're kind of side by side, but we're really not. And we can communicate here. Thank goodness we have Zoom, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's been invaluable for this past year.
And then when you get a whole lot of people in a Zoom setting, what happens is you start getting that Zoom fatigue. There's a lot of static because everybody's background's different. Everybody's doing different movements, the whole enchilada. But and again, we work with the mind. You mentioned that mindset. So when you're in the virtual reality world and you're here in a little avatar and someone else is here in a little avatar, you're side by side. The mind in the human element doesn't say that, oh, that's a strange little critter there. It says, hey, there's somebody beside me.
Okay.
And you communicate in the platform. Now you're in a conversation with somebody right there. You can be walking side by side talking. You can go venture off into different areas. So basically what we've done is we've taken that gaming platform and we've repurposed it, so to speak, into like boardrooms for businesses.
Oh, that's interesting.
So and or mastermind rooms, where everyone can come in their avatar. Not everybody's sitting around the table having a conversation. Everybody's looking at the same thing, and your mind takes you into that picture that's there. So everybody's looking at the same thing. So now you feel like you're in a room with your fellow, business people or family members or whatever the case may be, whatever the experience is.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting.
And then you can throw up, a PowerPoint. There's a place, that you can have a PowerPoint and everything, there on the big screen and go through business, and you don't get the Zoom fatigues or anything like that because you're there, and you can turn to that person right next to you and you can talk to them right there.
That's really cool.
And we need that connection right now.
Right. Especially now, yeah.
Yeah. And so what we've also done is we've turned it into events. So we're having a major event starting in October 1st, and we're going to make it every day till the 23rd of December. But we want vendors, arts and craft vendors. We want authors and speakers and artists and, whatever. And we have these huge stages, and we are international. So we have these big stages. So we could take your show and we could put it in the event center.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So we're gonna have we're looking for some big name speakers and stuff and entertainers, because we're gonna have musicians, we're going to have magic acts, we're going to have animal acts, we're going to have any kind of entertainment you can think of. So it's going to be like this massive fair event, where we'll have all these different kind of vendors, because they haven't been able to market, their supplies of stuff, because you couldn't get together. So here's a way to come together in all these different avenues. So we're going to kind of make it the vendor event of the year, right? And
That's so creative the way you pivoted to do that. That's a great idea.
yeah. And so everybody can run in there, and we're gonna have after hour things, so it'll be fun times.
Okay.
So we'll have movie nights, right? And you'll be
Oh,
in
that's
this
a good idea.
beautiful theater. I mean, really decked out, beautiful theater, right? And you buy tickets to the movie. This is the movie for tonight. Everybody comes in,
Right.
and then we push the go button, and you're watching the movie. Now you could be watching this movie with your family, with friends, with people that you just met, walking around in the event, all kinds of fun things. We're going to have food vendors, signs up all over the place where you can order food from your area. So let's just say you met somebody. So let's say you and I were in the event and we met each other. We started talking, and it's like, I want to know more about you. I want to hear all about what you have. I'm really interested in your show, and what you have to say, because I have a lot of audience, a lot of people, my clients are looking for this, right? Hey, let's grab a bite. Yeah, what do you want? Hey, I like pizza. Great, me too. So here's this pizza sign. Right? You make a call to your pizza place, and they make a call to their pizza place. Now this person is here. You're in Nashville. This person is up in BC, Canada.
Right.
Right? And so now you both have a doorbell ring, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff going on here in the event. Now here's another little sign that says, hey, we could run down by the beach. All right, that sounds like a good place, right? So you go through that portal, and you both land down here at the beach. Now you're sitting under a cabana, having a conversation, eating your pizza at home, getting to know each other. How cool is that?
That is a great idea. That is a great idea.
So that's kind of what we're looking to do, is really get some familiarity, but done in a fun way, and bring that togetherness back, because we humans are social.
Absolutely.
And we've got to bring that back. Thank goodness for Zooms and Skypes and conferences and things like that, but there's still that together, that like there's really somebody here. Piece is missing in a virtual reality. It's not. And actually the mental health institutions have been using virtual reality for real seriously 4 or 5 years, where they've worked with people who have had issues with PTSDs, anxieties, depression, phobias, big fears, and things like that to overcome.
That's great.
Yeah, so we decided let's take it into the business world. Let's take it into, the event world. Let's take it into having really a lot of fun, but staying connected, right? So
Absolutely. And it's a great time to do it.
yeah, it was perfect timing. It really was. We didn't, at the time we started it, we didn't know that that's where it was going to go. But, since February, things have really advanced, right? So,
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And pivoting is key in the business world right now.
oh gosh, it is. And I'll tell you, the changes, there's going to be no normal. There's no way. And again, it's like anything in life. Once you make a transition, right? A change is a change. You can always slide back. But a transition and a transformation, it's done. There's no going back. And for all the months of where things have been, there's going to be no going back to the way it was. That's gone. And that's a reality I think we all have to face, and it's a reality that doesn't taste good.
Right, for a lot of people. Sure.
And so it's like, okay, if not going back, then what is there? Right? What is there? Well, what there is what you make it.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of what our mission is to help people have that normalcy and that shift, but really be able to understand that the socialism and the connectedness is still there. It just looks different.
Right. And that's what it is. It looks different. And what will it look like?
Yeah. And it's gonna be what each and every one of us makes, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So.
And isn't that always the way? It's whatever our reality is what we make it. So.
Yeah, and there's that word
super
reality, right? Yeah, it is. one's reality is
Yep.
what you make it. So, yeah. So when you're working,
Absolutely.
when you're
Exactly,
working with the
exactly.
people on your show and you're sharing all these different things,
Yes.
what I kind of lost my train of thought. What I was going to ask you. So when you're working, in that change
That's
of
okay.
life,
I do it all the time.
so it's like what are the words I want to put out there, so that it makes sense, so that change, because we are changing, and wow, if anybody didn't like change, well, that change really happened this year, right? So when you're going through that change,
Right. Yes.
is what do your viewers want to hear? What is the message that you're looking to get across? Is it that you don't have to go through this change alone? Is it,
Yes. That's definitely one aspect of it, because I think once we reach a certain age, you can feel very alone and very isolated, irrespective of it being 2020. I think a lot of women feel isolated and a little bit invisible as we get older. So definitely one aspect of the show is making you feel like you are less alone.
Right.
But it's really about living your best life, however you define that to be. So what I perceive my best life to be may not be what you perceive your best life to be.
Right.
And it's giving women permission to figure that out. Give yourself the space, the grace, and we've said before, I started my professional career as an attorney. I pivoted and I stayed home with my children, and then I went to become a Pilates instructor, and now I'm a podcaster. People looked at me when I gave up the practice of law like I was insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean you're giving up the practice of law? There's money there. But it's not always about that. You have to be, midlife and beyond is a time where the intrinsic is just as important. When you're younger, the extrinsic, it's important because, you want to look good. And it's not that you don't want to look good. You do. But it's just as important to feel good. So
that's a key word right there, is the feel.
Right.
I think a lot of us have been stifled with this feel word, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're giving permission to have a feeling, and it's like, whoa, I don't know what to do about this. This is a little strange, right?
I write a blog called Freedom in Your 50s, and they are freedoms that we have earned, rightfully so, that we should not feel bad for exercising those freedoms. And a lot of times women do, because like you said, we are nurturers. Our intent is to put ourselves last. But in this stage of life, it is okay to make a decision that is best for you,
right,
and you alone. And it's giving permission to feel free to do that. And that is a huge hurdle for a lot of women.
Oh, just giving the self permission. I mean, just that word. Word. And I think that is totally relevant. It's okay to give
and
yourself
a lot of
permission.
women, like I was saying, feel kind of invisible in this stage of life. And we look at it as a superpower, because you go under the radar. There's no failing, and no one has a fear of failure in their 50s. We can try stuff. If it works, great. If it doesn't, okay, so you move on to something else. That's a superpower that you earn.
Right.
And you can do whatever you want with it. So it's really, for our podcast, women are so multidimensional between the ages. I mean, always, but especially during the ages of 40 and beyond, because we're bringing wisdom and life experience to the table. So it's not just kind of going with the flow because you have absolutely no clue what you're doing. It's you get married, it's your first baby, you're clueless, you're trying to work your way up the career ladder. Now all of a sudden we can say, that doesn't work for us. And that's okay. It doesn't work for us. It may work for you, and go for it. That's awesome. And we also want to be stronger together. You tend to be more supportive as you get older of other women. We want to raise everybody up as opposed to stepping on their heads as you go up the ladder,
That is one of the biggest changes that have happened. And I think that is just really relevant right now. That, hey, when you work together as a team, everybody wins. It's not about, I got to knock you down to get to the top, and, so it's like, there's room for everyone at the top, and
Absolutely.
working together in that unity, in that society, that is relevant. And that's one of the really beautiful things that I've seen over the last, maybe I want to say 8 to 10 years. It really started to get more prevalent, and
Okay.
I've been around more women's groups, and even in the last 5 years, the last 3 years, I mean, you look at the social medias and all these huge women's groups, powerful women's groups. Because you're looking in this age bracket here, this is the baby boom era, right? And we're saying, hey, we got a lot of living to do here, and we're going to do it, and we're going to, I mean, we came in style, we're going out in style, right? So, and then you do reach that certain point in life when you really just don't give a rat's what anybody else thinks about what you're doing.
Absolutely. And that's an earned privilege.
And it's very empowering.
Yes.
It can be very empowering. And again, we talk about that pendulum swinging, so you might be real over here, where you're kind of giving in and whatever, and then all of a sudden you're way over here, and it's like, whoa, I have this power force, then you kind of start getting into this little harmony thing. And
Exactly. And it's shocking for a lot of people in your life that all of a sudden they're like, who are you? Like, what do you mean you're not just going to do that? So it's so transitional and so multi-layered that we want women to just say it's okay. It's okay not to be okay today. It's okay to want to change careers as long as you do it in an intelligent way and you plan. Because there really is no alternative for hard work. If you're going to do something like a career change, you have to put the work in. You take your experience with you from anything you've done before, but you still have to. You're not excused from researching and learning and all that stuff, which is exciting. Look at it as a challenge. So it's really reframing the way people look at midlife and beyond is our goal. It's just to kind of say, wow, this is really, we kind of write the book here. It's an empty book, empty chapters. We're writing them.
Definitely. And when you talk about writing chapters of your life, I mean, right now, it's like there's more books than ever being written. Mm-hmm. And women, especially women, are getting their stories out, and that I think is uniting, women in an arena as well, because it's okay to talk about these things. It's not okay to stay and wallow in it, because that was then, as we mentioned earlier, throughout this show, is those are experiences that got you here and that have made you stronger and are pushing you forward into the realness of who you are, to be what you want to be, how you want to be it, as often as you want to be it, right? And not looking back, because your past doesn't have to define your now or define your future.
No, it doesn't. You can take those experiences and say, okay, what did I learn from them?
Right.
Because you don't want to repeat certain ones, so you take those with. And then you move forward. You don't say, it's just another, it's like a newspaper. It's another article in your story. But it's not that headline. It's not the front page anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And when we look at it from those perspectives, and again, I think, with the whole emergence of the Women Support Women movement that's been going on here and really, really getting prevalent, that their voice is really being heard. And especially, with a lot of the podcasting and the shows and everything that's been going on, that word is getting out. Women are writing their stories. You get a lot of these collaborated books where, each person has a chapter in that.
Yes.
And it's not about woe is thou. It's about, hey, this is where I come from, and this is where I am, and this is where I'm going, right? So it's not a down the rabbit hole into the abyss. It's like, I was in the abyss, and here's how I got out. Here's how I'm staying out. Here's how I can help you get out of your abyss.
How I can pull you out.
Exactly, and that's the key element here, is to say there is hope. and
Absolutely.
give yourself permission. And there's plenty of people who will give you that hand up. It's not about a handout, it's about a hand up. Right?
And if they don't, move on to the next person.
Oh,
because
yeah,
you don't
there's-
have time
Yeah.
to waste on people who are still in that mode of there's a finite amount of success, and if I help you, that means I won't get mine. That's
Right.
a waste of time. If that person believes that's okay,
Yeah,
that's great, move on.
then exactly, because you know what? There are those out there that this is what their mission is
Mhm.
to help as many start moving forward, and really getting their voice. And again, that goes back into that identity. That's what started me on my journey back in 1974. Is I had lost my identity. I had 4 years of total identity loss and depression after spending a life, of rebel and aggressive. I mean, nothing would
Right.
stop me, right? And boom, I got married. I had 3 kids back to back. All of a sudden, I had no identity, but by association. I mean, it pushed me into a depression where I was on the edge of suicide. And that was in 4 short years. It just went boom. But again, it was that identity. And when I really struck out and got the angers out and worked myself out of that and decided, I'm making changes. I'm out of this dead-end marriage. I'm out of this state. I'm out of this, and just really made all these choices to do what I wanted to do. I'm telling you, back in the 70s, getting a divorce, being a strict little Catholic girl, that was not an option,
Right.
But, at that point, I didn't care. I needed my own sanity. I had to raise these kids. They were my responsibility. They were my driving force, right? And so I pushed through that, and there wasn't a whole lot of support back then. My biggest supporter was my older sister, and she's still a major supporter.
Sometimes you just need one person.
It is.
It's okay.
It is. And there was 11 of us, okay, and I was second oldest, and she knew what it was to want to break free of that move. She had left a little farm territory, Iowa, and she'd moved to the big city of Denver, and so there there was some similarities, but she supported. She says, okay, you want to get your divorce, you want to do this, yeah, fine. But I'm telling you, where my freedom returned, when my true identity for me was when I walked out of that courtroom and I had that divorce decree in my hand, and on there it said, your name is, and I had my birth name back on there, right?
Yes.
The one you see up here. I swore at that point, I'm walking down that set of stairs and I'm saying, never will I ever change my name again. That was for me, my
Right.
identity. My identity. And, so everyone has that personal journey, that personal whatever, and, so for me, that was my reality. And again, it boils down to, what is your reality? Give yourself permission to find your identity. And it doesn't matter what anybody thinks about your identity. Be unpredictable.
Mhm.
Get out of the comfort zone. And you know what? Just go out there and do. Just do and do and do. And move the fear away. Right? Because a lot of
Absolutely.
times that fear of the unknown is what holds us back, right? It's like, yeah, but what if it's worse out there? Well, what if it's better? But what it's
Getting out of
going to
your
be
comfort zone.
is what you make it. So if you think it's going to be worse, well, guess what? It's going to be worse,
Right.
right? It's like that Cherokee story, about the chief medicine man, is telling the story to the Braves, about the wolves, the 2 wolves that live inside, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, well, which wolf is going to win? And he says, the one you feed.
That's true.
So
That is
what
true.
are you feeding? Your identity. What are you feeding? Your fears or your adventure? Right?
It's true. Which one is going to take over from that? And sometimes it's different on a different day. So
It can be different from one moment to the, especially if you're in this menopause thing, right? Wow,
Yeah,
look
well,
at you got
yeah.
extremes. So,
that's so true, though.
Colleen, if people want to get on your show or want to just listen to your show, where do they need to go to find you?
Well, if people want to get in touch with us, they can check out our Gmail. It's hotflashescooltopics@gmail.com.
It's all one word?
And yes, hotflashescooltopics@gmail.com. You can also go on our website, which again is one word, hotflashescooltopics.com.
Hot Flashes, Cool Topics.
Yes, and as far as the podcast goes, we're on all the platforms. So you can actually go on the website. All the episodes are there, but you can go on Apple, you can go on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. We are on all the platforms that I can't even remember the names of. But you can pretty much find us anywhere under Hot Flashes and Cool Topics.
Yeah, so if somebody just types in Hot Flashes, they're going to start to find you, right?
Exactly. They're halfway there.
They're halfway there. They're probably going to get all kinds of things that say Hot Flashes until they see, oh yeah,
Yeah,
Cool
exactly.
Topics, here it is. Yes, I found it.
I usually get excited when I can find it because I'm not tech savvy. So, and we have managed to get on all social platforms. So we're on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and all those fun places. You can pretty much find us anywhere, and we're always happy to interact with other women because we just feel like we're stronger together.
You know, that right there is a very, very wise statement. We are stronger together. If there's one thing you could leave the audience with today, what would that be, Colleen?
Live in your authentic truth. Be your
wow.
authentic self. Life is too short not to do that, and it doesn't matter if someone else doesn't like that. They're not living your life.
Right.
So live in your authentic self and go on a journey to find that. If you don't know who that is, it's okay to go on a journey to find that person. Right. You might just like them better than you are now.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? People that have been in your life, they may fall away, and that isn't always a bad thing. But I promise you this. There's billions of people out here in the universe, and there's going to be somebody that's going to like you. So you're never going to be alone unless you decide to isolate yourself, right? So thank you so much for being
Which is a challenge nowadays.
Yes, it can be. So thank you, Colleen, so much for being on the show. And
thank you for having us on it, or having me on. It was a pleasure.
So it's time to go out there and say what? Go out there and be that best you that you can be, because Colleen and I are going to be the best we that we can be. And we'll see you all on the next show. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.